Hey yo, welcome back to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast, episode 30, fully loaded squad this evening. Fellas, how are you?
How we doing?
Hey,
Doing
Erev
great.
Tov.
Big E just back
Good to
from the
see
gym.
everybody's faces.
Big E just getting back from the gym, Mr.
Call me
Strongman. Eh,
Sweaty, Sweaty.
Sweat
Did you have
E,
any spinach, Mr. Popeye?
a little bit.
You know it.
He knows it. And
And you
we have
am hydrating too.
excellent.
Always.
Always well hydrated on the Boston Sports Brothers
Your body is a
podcast.
temple.
Indeed.
Damn straight.
And joining us this evening, it's Eric Chapone, better known as Uncle Lee, Gabe's uncle. And literally, right before
Yes.
we tipped off the episode, Uncle Lee comes in and lets us know he's working at 610 WIP in Philadelphia Sports Radio. So we're going to talk some Boston, Philadelphia sports crossover and everything going on in that realm of things with Uncle Lee here for the first 30, 40 minutes of the show. Uncle Lee's got to get to pickleball, so we have a limited amount of time with him, but we're really excited. Uncle Lee, how are you doing tonight? Give us a little bit of your background, how you your fandom for the Boston Sports Brothers podcast, and certainly some of your professional background as well, given what you're doing in the sports radio scene in Philly. Thank you for joining us as well. We're really excited.
Well, you have a good radio voice, I gotta say. I
All right,
like it. I
we'll
like it.
take it. We'll take
He's
it.
been
I
told
like
that
it. I
once or
like
twice.
it.
Once or twice.
I was gonna say, I followed you guys, and Gabe is my boy, and
Hell yeah.
Gabe lived in my house for a little while, and his dad is my. I'm the youngest of four brothers. His dad is the one who could care less about sports growing up, which was appalling. But now he's a huge Boston fan. That's weird.
It's a little
Um,
fishy.
yeah, but I think Gabe had a little influence on that. But grew up in Philly, played ball my whole life, played tennis and baseball. My first plane trip ever, and I'll date myself, 1976 year of the bicentennial, won the city championship in Philly, and as a reward, they thought it would be a real cool promotional stunt to have, the champions from Philly go to Boston, first time on a plane, and play kids from Boston, Paul Revere versus the Ben Franklin sort of thing. So that was kind of cool. And no, just always lived and breathed sports, worked in entertainment. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the Tweeter Center
Mhm.
out by you. Well, I
Mhm.
I worked for Live Nation for many years and became friendly with the person who headed up the Boston Tweeter Center, and we got them to put their name on the Philly amphitheater as well. So there was a Tweeter Center in Boston, Tweeter Center in Philly, and so I spent a lot of time up there. Love the city. The two cities are so similar. It's crazy. Like we don't ever, nor have we ever hated Boston. We hate New York. We hate Dallas. But Boston's a cool city, and I love when people say like you're even more racist than we are.
Oh, no.
No,
Well,
no,
we there's definitely a Northeast brotherhood, I'd say, between
yeah.
Boston, New York, Philadelphia. There's this sort of commonality, I think, amongst the people from these areas. Fellas, any takeaways from Uncle Lee's opening statements? And we can certainly dive into our topics as well.
Well, I think I'll start here considering you are our
Nephew.
family. Um, awesome for you to join us. I mean, you've been badgering me to get on this podcast, so I'm happy that we finally had an opening for you, and hopefully this will become a more regular thing with you being our Philly correspondent. I think that would be really
Indeed.
awesome. You've always brought such a great sports knowledge. You taught me so much as a kid. You were definitely one of my favorite uncles, just because you would always bring me out to play sports, and you always had the cool memorabilia, even if it was all Philadelphia sports. But I mean, you were always giving me jerseys, and just like, it's just core memories for me. You're a true OG, Eric. I couldn't love you more, because my fandom is a reflection of your fandom as well.
No, very cool.
And
Mishpocha on three. Right.
when we we talk about Philly scumbags a little bit. You know how fans can be a little scummy in Philadelphia, and I'm sure in Boston as well. But Philly has the reputation. But you totally put that argument to bed. I mean, you're a totally respectful fan. You're not climbing poles and just doing crazy shit out in the street. You again, you bring a great knowledge, and yeah, it's awesome to have you on. Welcome.
The one thing I will say
Thank you so much.
that bring Philly and Boston fans so close together and are so similar is they're so passionate. And Uncle Lee, we know that you're super passionate about your Eagles who just won the Super Bowl. So take a little victory lap. Why
Oh,
not?
God. We're still gloating. But you know what? Let me address the fan stuff first. Yeah, there are a bunch of idiots, but the bigger the pie, the more idiots there'll be. So, but for the most part, it's all about the passion, and it's generational, and it really is true passion. Yeah, people get drunk. And they get out of hand. It's what happens. Those 7 o'clock and 4 o'clock starts. I think the Eagles had two 1 o'clock starts at home this year. So the rest of the games, there are lots of hours to get really, really. Am I allowed to say fucked up? Yeah.
Yeah,
Fucked
hell
up.
yeah.
You are.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Hell yeah.
But you know what? The true fans, I mean, they love it, and a lot of tears, a lot of hugs. I did the first parade. It was one of the colder days of my life. Fortunately, our station broadcast from the route, so we had a place to get warm. But this parade, it was limited access, and I wasn't on air, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna watch at home. And my daughter went, who's crazy, crazy passionate, and my oldest daughter actually works for NBC Sports and Comcast, and so she was knee deep in Eagles activity. So yeah, it's a big sports family. We always have been, and yeah, the team is. I don't know your guys' perception. I'm curious, but they're a really likable team. There's no jerk offs. When it was Donovan and T.O., you could say, oh, I hate those guys, but they were jerks. But from the Jason Kelsey, I mean, he wasn't on this roster, and I do want to bring up too. I think part of the reason they won this year, and part of the reason they disintegrated last year, was all the attention Kelsey brought in the locker room. It wasn't cool. The other guys, they didn't love it, and that never really came out. But I think that's a real thing. This year, this team was really united. And it starts with the management and the ownership. Jeffrey Lurie, a Boston guy. And, I think his dream is to one day own the Celtics. But he's an awesome guy. And Howie Roseman is a boy, Jewish genius. And, he was literally demoted. His story, he was demoted by Chip Kelly, who wanted no parts of him. And he had him, be the equipment manager. And that imploded, and he came back, and he'll probably go in the Hall of Fame for 2 Super Bowls and the teams he's put together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard today. The big Eagle news was
Darius Slay.
big play Slay is cut, but he was. You know what? I think if you watch and follow the team, they have young corners who are rock stars between Cooper DeJean and Kenyon Mitchell. They're studs. The guys waiting in the wings are studs. So I think it's going to be interesting for free agency how that goes down. I don't think there might be a Myles Garrett trade for some picks, but it's going to be there. We would love to replicate what you guys did, a few years ago.
Well, and Uncle E,
Go
just
ahead,
to kind of flip it around, I think we're sitting here on the other side with the Patriots, in a not great spot right now. I think we're in a better spot than we were last season. Really kind of no direction. I think kind of what the Eagles have done over, I would say the last 7 years, being to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2, and how they've built through the draft. It's kind of a model that we're trying to replicate as we're looking at the Patriots and what we want for the future. So, it's kind of interesting that you guys are kind of trying to replicate us, and we're at the same point where we're just trying to get back to the level where you guys are right now.
Nah, it's cool, and they'll build. I'm not sure. You guys are really, I would say, a few years away. But the good news is your division's not that great. So I was like, it's there, it's there. It's there for the taking. At least to be in contention in week 16 or 17 for a shot at the wild card, something like that. But I don't know what your quarterback's going to do. This kid, can he play?
Oh, he could play. He could
Give him the
play.
line.
We need.
So
We'll
that's
see.
what I was going to say. So the Eagles built their team. Everybody talks about the skill positions, but their O-line and D-line are studs. Like,
Hmm.
first of all, they're the biggest human beings I've ever seen. We do a Monday night show from a place called Chickies and Pete's in Philly, and it's the Players Lounge, and it's hosted by Brandon Graham, and Jordan Mailata takes the second hour.
Brandon Graham, Tom
Those are
Brady
small
killer.
humans, right?
Yeah, and Brandon is small next to Mailata. It's crazy. But we had a night where Mailata brought in Lane Johnson, and there's two of the biggest humans I've ever seen. And then you factor in Becton, who's even bigger than both of them. And yeah, that's a big line. And Landon Dickerson, like these guys, they're beast. And the guy who replaced Kelsey, I mean, I think Kelsey might even admit he's going to be better than him, Cam Jurgens. So their line is sick, and
Yeah,
they're and you know,
I mean the line. I think that's the way you got to build out a team. I also think that the Eagles did a tremendous job building around Jalen Hurts, and we talked about this on previous episodes. Jalen Hurts really like deserves to be in the conversation as a top five quarterback in the league amongst Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I mean, he's had more success than most people that I just mentioned there.
well, he's that guy. He's the living version of that's that song. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Like that's it.
It helps. It
Like,
helps having a generational running back that comes to your squad from a division rival as well, for sure.
from a Penn State alum, I am
Yeah.
so thankful to. I thank my New York friends all the time. It's the greatest. It's the greatest acquisition in my lifetime.
Yeah,
It's
is that what you do to Scott and Harrison? You say thank you.
Oh, all the time, all the time. And you know what? I thought about it like in my life, what was the biggest offseason pickup that changed the team? And it was Pete Rose with the Phillies, who I hated as a kid until he became a Philly, and they won their first World Series since 1915. And then Dr. J when he came from the ABA. Those were the two biggest pickups in my lifetime.
Saquon Barkley firmly cemented in position number 3 on that list for sure. Uncle Lee, we want to talk a little basketball and the Celtics and Sixers, and we almost take the script of the Patriots and Eagles and reverse it here with the Celtics and the Sixers.
100%. Yeah.
And so, it's been the Celtics are certainly having another great season, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. But from the Sixers standpoint, a team that retooled this offseason, adding Paul George and, sort of saying that they had a big three. What it's all gone downhill, but I would love to get the insight from a Philly sports fan perspective in terms of how this team is viewed, specifically Joel Embiid, and just the downfall of the Sixers and how it's occurred from your lens.
So okay. So I love Embiid. I feel sorry for the guy. He's the most gifted player I've ever seen. For definitely most gifted big man. Shoot from the outside, shoot from the inside. I mean, it drives me nuts that he stands at the top of the key when all he has to do is box out down low, and he could probably score or get fouled every time. But the guys, I've never seen someone get hurt so much. From broken orbitals, and his knees are horrible. He just has had freak injuries the whole time. But I guess when you're that big, you're fragile. The truth of the matter is, in his life, he hasn't played basketball that long. Like from the Cameroon, and he learned how to play. And
Yeah, from high
turn your-
school or yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's very upsetting. And what I'm trying to figure out, where like I did a couple years of law school at Villanova, way back when, and like I think there's like a class action suit coming down the pike. Like fans, I mean, we're probably all spoiled. We've gone to quite a few games in our life, but there's fans where they base their whole year and Christmas presents and birthday presents. You're going to go see Joel Embiid play. You know what? Spend hundreds of dollars. You have a family of four. You're not getting away without spending close to $1,000 for an evening out, and and they don't play. And this load management, first it was load management, which is total bullshit. And but you know what? You never saw, say what you will, Larry Bird never sat, Dr. J never sat. Like that's bullshit. Hey, if you could tell any of us, hey, here's the deal. You have to go out out of a 24-hour day, you have to go and really be on for 2 or 3 hours. And we'll pay you $40 million. Where do you sign up? Like, like it's ridiculous to me. And so I think, fans are due refunds, pro rata refunds. Maybe it's, hey, if it's $100 ticket and Paul George and Embiid weren't in the lineup that night, you get 40% credit in merchandise or something, or food or something. But it's a disgrace. And the Sixers, the quote unquote process is over. Hell, they were 6 minutes from kicking your guys' ass and knocking you out of the playoffs. Well, 2 years ago, and with Harden and Embiid like playing out of their mind, and a young Maxey, that was the team that should have gone all the way.
A
And
ball bounce away against the Raptors too, right? Like they've had
yep. Oh
opportunities.
yeah, with Kawhi.
Kawhi.
Yeah. Yeah, so like they were really good and really loaded, and I think their coach is great, but you got to play the cards you're given. I think their GM sort of sucks. Nobody gives a rat's ass about Elton Brand or knows that he's the GM, but they're in trouble. They're in deep trouble, and it's a shame because they will be the team. When I grew up, the ticket and the team that everybody talked about and wanted to be around was the Flyers. Toughest ticket in town. They were rock stars. I invited, Bernie Perrant and Bobby Clark to my bar mitzvah. Like that was like the thing. And now at WIP, we go 1 and 2 with the Fan, which our company also owns, Odyssey, as the top 2 sports stations in the country. And we won't even talk Flyers, and we'll barely talk Sixers. The only Sixers news is, hey, Embiid's not playing, and what's the story behind it? And we have a guy who does voices, Joe Conklin. He's fantastic. I don't know if you guys have ever heard him, but he does like a classic, like Embiid crying, like, I don't know what happened to me. Like
That's pretty good.
But what was the Phillies' plan, even with having Joel Embiid have like a low minute restriction? Was it a depth thing, or how did they think that they were going to be able to kind of stay in contention?
I think he thought he'd play like 60 of 80 games, and that would have gotten it done with the rotation that they had. And Maxey is clearly a rising star. And Paul George, they expected him to be Paul George of probably 5 years ago, and he's been okay. But like, kind of, I was going to use the example when like the Sixers got Al Horford, and he sucked ass for the Sixers. They couldn't get rid of him fast enough, and he came back and he tortured them, and continued. Like, did he just not like Philly, or does he love Boston?
Was it coaching? I don't know.
I don't know if he liked playing with Embiid, and I think there was definitely issues with 2 of them being on the court together. And I don't know if like he definitely doesn't have anyone. So obviously, there's not many people like Embiid, but he doesn't have someone that plays a similar style like that on the Celtics that he plays with ever. So I don't know if they didn't get along personally, or just their playing style was the issue. But clearly, there was an issue between the 2 of them.
Yeah,
Uncle Lee,
I guess
we had a game from Horford last night or yesterday versus Denver. He went off. He like kind of like saved the game for the Celtics in a way. So he's still producing at a pretty good
crazy.
level over here.
It's like, where did it like he stores it somewhere. And I guess Embiid is we call it hate the face. Like, there's certain guys you just hate the face. Like for us and you guys that we always hate the face was Danny Ainge and Kevin McHale. It's probably Derek White now. Like another guy, like he has a career against the Sixers, and I'm curious to get your guys' take. How did he get on the Olympic team over Jaylen Brown? Like who did he blow to make that happen?
Nike and LeBron James. That I could go off on honestly, I could go off on a tangent on that. The thing about Jaylen Brown that a lot of people don't know this is he is an extremely intellectual person.
He's a freaking genius. Yeah.
He is. He's a genius, and he understands what's happening in different parts of the world and wants to bring I think a little bit of light to that, and I think it's rubbed people the wrong way, and that's why. But you're right, it doesn't make sense. I mean, the one valid excuse that they had that I could see is that as far as point guards go, they really didn't have. They only had one, backup defensive point guard in Drew Holiday, so they bring in Derek White. But even then, it's still, this is the MVP, MVP of the NBA Finals, and how to leave him off the team, it makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, before they turned their season around last year, I was like, he was on the trading block. And I was like, oh man, the Sixers get him. They're winning the championship. Like, I was like, get him or get Jimmy Butler, and they're going to be right back in the thick of things.
It's just
And
crazy how quickly. It's just crazy how you guys could have had our core. Like
yeah,
it was there for the taking, and like I remember
well,
watching
Tatum
those
should have been
drafts.
drafted by them.
Yeah, unreal.
And so should Brown.
Swindled you guys.
Yeah.
It's
So,
it's crazy when you look back at all the ties between the Sixers and the Celtics, both from like a playing standpoint, but all the behind the scenes as well. Like it's very true. They could have had Tatum, and instead you
And
had
Brown
Marc
and Ime
Gasol.
Udoka. Udoka was
over.
an assistant head coach.
Also,
Yeah.
Doc Rivers went from the Celtics to the
Yeah,
Sixers.
There's a lot of
That's
ties.
It's crazy.
one of
Yeah.
the
Which brings us to my favorite sport, which is baseball.
yeah.
take
And the
away,
Phillies. And well, I have to say honestly, like growing up, like I've always watched different kinds of sports and just those I hated those fucking blue pinstripes from the Yankees, and your red pinstripes were just the opposite. And I've always liked the Phillies. And then even in 2008, I mean, you guys were stacked with Jason Worth and who else? am I
Brian
missing?
Howard, Chase
Ryan
Utley,
Howard,
Mhm.
Chase Utley, Shane Victorino. You got my guy behind
J-Roll.
the mound. You got that rotation was just absolutely filthy. Whichever way you put it, when you had like Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, like I mean, it was just
Cole
it was a
Hamels,
pretty
yeah.
Cole Hamels. It was an out of control rotation, and just that team I just always gravitated to. Like, and now that you guys have Dombrowski, we've had Dombrowski, and he's an all chips in kind of guy. Especially if he's got eight what's it called, two aces off the flush. So it's like, do you think bringing in Jordan Romano, Joe Ross, and Max Kepler are is enough for you guys? Is that what are those the role players that you are missing, or do you think it's a bigger piece that the Phillies are missing?
Yeah, I think the Phils from a raw talent ability are loaded. I mean baseball players of all the sports, they're the ones that have to be in the least best shape. But that's changed over the years too. But with the core, their lineup is sick. Um, Schwarber, who played for both teams, Harper's godlike, and he's kind of like the modern day Pete Rose, hated by most teams, but you'd love him on your team. But he plays his heart out. He also plays to the cameras and the media too about how much he loves Philadelphia and the fanatic. But yeah, it's a solid lineup, and I think they could hit the shit out of the ball. But when they go cold, it seems they all go cold at once. Their pitching, I think, is what's going to be their starting pitching in particular. I think is what's going to might put them over the top. As great as the Dodgers lineup is, and hats off to the Mets, who I hate, but they got hot at the right time, and they were like 2 outs away from not making it out of the play-in, and they rode it to a playoff victory over the Phillies and then into the NLCS. But I think this Phillies team's loaded for bear, and I like that they're downplaying themselves a bit through spring training. Also, it helps that there's been, all this Eagles insanity and the parade and aftermath and who the free agent. So they're flying under the radar. And I don't know about you guys, but like we're not in baseball mode yet here.
I think around here,
I
basically,
always
We
do.
are. We're getting there.
Krause
Oh,
is
I'm
in
certain
baseball
that-
Yeah,
mode.
my dad will be watching like some Dominican league, like in winter ball, and like cooking in the kitchen. So
Until the Celtics playoff
Krasners
run.
are always playing. What's that?
Yeah, I'm
That's
still
Until
in
the Celtics playoff
Celtics
run.
mode for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Until the
oh,
Celtics playoff
100%.
run is done, baseball is kind of an afterthought for me.
It's an afterthought, but
I
it's
was just
So
looking at
what's the view on Schilling there? Is he viewed as like a dickhead or?
Oh, we don't like him.
No, he's an
I don't
asshole.
like Schilling.
So the big thing is there wasn't an NDA that was signed, but the thing I think that really broke the camel's back was the whole Tim Wakefield spilling of leakage of data of his information and personal life.
I think it's way before that. I think that's just the cherry on top, man.
Well,
he
that's what I'm
also
saying. Well, that's what I'm
collected-
saying.
He collected Nazi memorabilia and
He
he was like
defrauded the state of Rhode Island.
Millions.
Come on,
he was a bad guy. Like, so
Yeah,
I did some work with I did a roast with it was fantastic between Mitch Williams and Lenny Dykstra, and
Tandem.
they hated Schilling. From that was a classic team that captured the country. Like that John Kruk, Darren Dalton, Lenny Dykstra, that team was like insane, and they made it to the World Series. And Schilling was their ace, but he was, and the closer was Mitch Williams, who ended up blowing the World Series to Joe Carter, famous walk-off home run by Toronto. But Schilling would sit there in the dugout with a towel over his head, and like he would show up his teammates, and they hated the guy. And then when he did the bloody sock with the socks, I was like, is this like for show, or is the guy like really like a gamer? I don't know.
I mean, I think Schilling, the person, asshole, and like through and through with everything that you just talked about and everything
But
that
a
we've
gamer.
seen. Like he
Guy can throw the ball.
yeah, but when that guy stepped on the hill, you were excited to watch him pitch. Like, let's not kid ourselves. He had some epic moments for the Red Sox, especially in that '04 playoff run. The bloody sock, like there's all the stuff around that. It's like lore. I mean, he definitely wasn't moving the same way that he usually does, but who knows? Like you could have put a Band-Aid on for sure. You know,
I always use the example. You guys, please tell me you've all seen Field of Dreams, right?
Of course.
So when they walk out of the cornfields, and they say, "Yeah, we would have brought Ty Cobb, but nobody could stand the guy." Like that's what I think about Schilling. Like he's that guy.
Yeah,
And
he's just a jerk as a person, I think.
you had Victorino, who
Oh, I loved him.
pure
We
dumb
love the
luck.
flying Hawaiian.
I did a lot of work with Shane. I did his endorsements for a few years, and one of the great Shane stories was I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it, but you know, he liked the women, and so there was a hotel deal that I did for him, and he had to have a room that was located near a stairwell. It was pretty crazy stuff.
I like that. Wow.
make
Singing,
of that.
don't worry
No
about
wonder
I don't
why
want
we
this
love
to get like
Shane
picked up by
Victorino so
AP.
much.
I don't want this to get picked up by AP, and Shane's calling me like, "What the fuck? What are you
No,
saying?"
don't worry.
No, no.
Make of that what you will. But you talked about some stories from back in the day, obviously through your work in Boston, Philly, and we want to wrap things up here with Uncle Lee so he can get to pickleball on time. Where we're gonna do a little time capsule lightning round combination platter, if you will, a poo-poo platter of lightning round, and
All right.
uh, time capsule here. So, J Matt, why don't you kick us off with our first time capsule lightning round?
Yeah, so let's talk specifically Pat's Eagles Super Bowls. What's your favorite sports memory in terms of those Super Bowls that we played in? It was a couple actually now.
Okay. I'm happy to tell you. So
I already know.
it's actually it's a touching story. The first Super Bowl. So again, I don't be a downer, but I had a wife who was a rock star, and she passed 12 years ago, and she had cancer. She went through her treatments, and to celebrate, I worked for Live Nation at the time. We were the Super Bowl host committee, so I had access to everything. And that happened to be the year that the Eagles were playing the Pats in the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, which is the shittiest host city of all time for Super Bowls. They didn't have enough hotel rooms, so they had to bring in cruise ships for people to stay in. The toilets overflowed in the stadium. It was for shit, but it was very political, who got awarded the Super Bowl. Fortunately, as part of the host committee, we had good accommodations. We had real hotels, access to great parties, and that team shit the bed. They should have won. They should have won that Super Bowl. They were winning most of the game. A young Brady brought the team back, pulled them ahead by 10 in the fourth quarter. Eagles scored a quick touchdown, held on D, got the ball back, chance to go ahead with I think it was just under 2 minutes to go. And Donovan threw up in the huddle, literally puked in the huddle. And Andy Reid lost track of the timeouts. They ran out of time, and they lost by 3. So they shit the bed. It hurt. That team was loaded. That was the TO team leading up to that game. The big story was he had broken his leg,
My
and
God.
they like put screws in it, and he
He
did one of
balled
those
out.
like the like Michael Jackson chambers to like recover faster, and he went out and like caught 11 balls, and like he was a rock star, and he
Yeah.
played his ass off, but they came up just short. But that was the first time since 1980 that they had been in the Super Bowl, so it was like okay, and everyone thought that was going to be, they'd be back soon, and it wasn't until, many years later, I guess, so 39 to 52, I guess, was,
Yeah.
it was the next Super Bowl 52, and that was insane. That was Nick Foles, day in the life, performance of a lifetime, lightning in a bottle, and Brady threw for 500 yards
Oh my
and
God.
played his ass off, but Foles was just a little better, and
Big blank Nick, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
but talk about a nice guy. He's a very nice guy, and the only guy on the team that actually like knows who I am, that would like say, "Hey, E, whatever," is Brandon Graham, and his play. That's the all-time play in Eagles history, the strip on Brady, and it was very cool. In this year's Super Bowl, they stripped Mahomes. Now it wasn't Brandon, but still it was very cool.
I think the Eagles have like one of the most interesting like situations because obviously they got the win a couple years ago against the Patriots, Brady dynasty, all that stuff, and then they were able to do the same thing against the Kansas City Chiefs. They were vying. They're known as a dynasty at this point for what they've done. Was it sweeter to win against the Patriots, or is it sweeter to win against the Kansas City Chiefs? Also having Andy Reid over on the Chiefs and obviously Tom Brady on the Pats.
I got to tell you, they're both rewarding because they're both going to go down as like two of the greatest
But you
ever.
got to choose
I
one.
I'll choose. I would choose one. The first one was
The
better.
first one.
The
Okay.
first one was great.
Always.
But what I was telling you, so we celebrated my wife like end of her treatments by taking the kids. We started the week in Disney World and we did all that thing. We went to. Have you guys been to Super Bowls before?
No.
No.
So you got to do it. And the truth of the matter is bigger than the game. I have till 7:50 or 7:53 about. So
Got it.
so the bigger than the game are the parties, and it's just insane. Like that Super Bowl, like everyone talks about the halftime shows and whatever. The pregame show for that Super Bowl was I wrote this down because I was like, holy crap. I thought it was the Black Eyed Peas, Earth, Wind and Fire, Charlie Daniels, John Fogerty, Kelly Clarkson, Gretchen Wilson. That was the pregame show. And the halftime show was Paul McCartney. Like, I was like, this is sick. This is like, oh, and there's a game going on too, And the parties we went to before the game, I trotted my kids out like they were like toys because they were cute little girls. And we went to this Taste of the NFL party, which was every team sends a famous restaurant, has a former player and a current player there, signing autographs, meeting fans, and it was a Michael McDonald concert and then a Rod Stewart concert. Like that's the stuff, and they remember that. So, unfortunately, my wife passed, but you know what? They remember that trip so fondly, and it's just like the game is almost an afterthought.
Yeah.
And I went to one. My first Super Bowl was against it was Tampa and the Raiders.
Oakland, yeah.
Yeah, and John Gruden, and it was supposed to be the Eagles. That's so. As a seller, I sold a huge package to a local automotive dealership for them to go to the Super Bowl, and everyone thought for sure the Eagles were going to kick the crap out of Tampa. They took the opening kickoff, scored right away, and ended up losing on a Joe Juravicious touchdown from Tampa Bay,
What a
Penn
name.
Stater,
Wow.
and Rondé Barber pick six. So it ended up being Tampa and Oakland, and I had these tickets and rooms, and I'd never been to a Super Bowl. And I said to my client, I was like, "You want to go? I'll go if you go." And it was great. And it was also we stopped in Vegas on the way out there, and it happened to be the week of the porno awards. And it was like,
Porno convention.
and like one of my clients was FYE, the music retailer,
Yeah.
and they had
Oh, I
like
remember that story.
yeah, and they had like a porno.
Yeah.
I think it was Coconuts in Boston. Was how they did business as, And he's like, "Oh, we could go to this party, and you want to be an extra? Like, we won't show your face." And I was like, "No, no."
I'm good enough being parallel to the porno award. Oh, man.
But no, you got to get to a Super Bowl. You got
All
to
right.
get
Well,
Moral of the
I
story.
mean, with those stories, but to touch on the story that you were talking about with your family, I think that's the best part about sports, right? It's like sometimes these games and these experiences that you get to do in your life, with family that is still with you or family that has passed along, are like inscribed and etched in your mind. And I think that's why we all do this podcast. Is like, as Gabe said at the top of the show, like your uncles, your grandfathers, your dad, your whoever helps like instill sports in you. And between Philadelphia and Boston, those are two cities that do that better than any. So really, really cool to hear about that experience. And while we still have you for a few minutes, we want to talk about a few other things. So Big E, take it with our time capsule. Next question.
Yes. So next time capsule question is about Celtics and the Celtics versus Sixers. Back in the day, would you rather choose the Dr. J and Bird era, the AI versus Pierce era, or the current era, if you had to choose between the three?
What about the Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell era?
Let's throw them in there too. Why not, right?
No, the Dr. J, I can't turn it around. I'd show you. I actually have on my wall the classic Dr. J and Bird choking each other picture. Um, that Sixers team, that Sixers team was the greatest team in my. I don't really remember the Wilt Chamberlain. I was alive, but I don't really remember that 82-83 team or 83-84 with Dr. J and Moses Malone and the Boston Strangler was you guys Andrew Toney was insane shooting guard, Mo Cheeks, Bobby Jones. I mean, they're Hall of Famers. That team was that's the team. That's the team that I think if you ask like the McHale's, Maxwell's, Birds, like I think they would say, yeah, that was the best team ever.
No doubt. I mean, those are memories I think that
Mhm.
as Celtics fans of our age look back on and sort of say, okay, you see where that rivalry came from. I mean, between the 80s, the Celtics and the Lakers, and the Celtics and the Sixers were two of the all-time NBA rivalries of all time. Gabe, why don't you take the next one for another great rivalry that's
Yeah.
been in
Well,
it?
I'm just gonna say, Uncle Lee, it's been great having you. I know that you have somewhere to be soon. So I might, we could have you on again. I think we can always talk more Dr. J and Bird because we weren't alive really during that time, and I think that would really enlighten us. I think we'll go out with the last question here. I don't know if you're eating many Philly cheesesteaks these days. But do you have a favorite spot?
I do. I do. I am a Jim Steaks guy.
What
Hell
I've
yeah.
heard.
And
You instilled that in me too.
yeah, yeah. And it's all about the cut, it's all about the roll, and it's all about the what is it? How they slice it. So you don't want like where it looks all grizzly, you want like the slabs. So yeah. So and I don't know if Gabe, but my dad, his grandfather had a meat company, so we grew up on that stuff. So that was my dad was one of the inventors of the minute steak, and you know since has become like Steakum. So it's kind of a cool thing. But
That
no,
is cool.
guys, it was a pleasure. It was very, very cool talking to you. I gotta get to pickleball because I am headed to Del Rey on Wednesday to play in a 60 and over tournament down there.
Hell
And
yeah.
hopefully I'll come home with some hardware. We'll see what happens.
Good
Hell
luck.
yeah.
All
Good
right.
luck, Uncle
That's
Lee.
sick.
Love it. Love it. Uncle Lee hitting the pickleball circuit, and a really awesome conversation. Can't thank you
Mm.
enough for jumping on with us. So we'll definitely do this again in the future, and we'll dive even further into Boston and Philly sports. So take care, Uncle Lee. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you down the road.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Have a good
See you
one.
later.
All right.
Take care.
Later. Bye.
He's out of here. Uncle Lee, that was awesome. Gabe, thanks for making that happen. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Love Uncle Lee.
Great insight.
There's like things that he says that like I don't even like know about Uncle Lee sometimes. Like he's that type of guy that's just like always like somewhere. Like he's always up for to do something and to be somewhere and just never like sits down and like chills. Like he's just always he's always out and
On the
about. It's great.
move.
He's
Yeah,
got
so
some interesting stories.
Oh
he's
man.
got, and he could keep going. Like as you guys could probably tell, I mean, if we let him go, he probably would have gone for an hour. So, that was awesome. I'm really happy we had him on. I said to Plotty the other day, the podcast has actually been bringing my uncle and I closer together, which has also been really cool. Just because he's in Philly, I'm in Boston, but he's always reaching out now, trying to get onto the podcast, and it's brought our relationship a little closer, which is cool too.
Does Uncle Lee doesn't have any sons, right?
No sons. I was like the golden boy because all my uncles had girls. So whenever I went to visit Philadelphia, they would take me to games. They would, it was just a sports frenzy. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely have to attribute my fandom to my uncles for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Golden Boy Gabe.
Yeah.
Add it to the list of
I know.
nicknames for Gabe. Gabe
The
McShay,
ever-growing
Golden
list.
Boy Gabe. We got it all.
Gaby baby.
Gaby baby. Good
So
stuff.
the nephew and niece call me. Yeah.
Excellent. Really, really fun to have him on. I think definitely get Uncle Lee back on. I think there'll be a good time in the sports calendar over the summertime when it might be a little light where we can have an extended combo with Uncle Lee. But with that being said, we're going to get into some of our usual topics and things that we do here on the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. And we're going to start with the Celtics, who had quite the week. A little bit of an injury bug going around right now. Big E, why don't you take it away? Set the table on the C's.
Yeah, up and down week this week. Interesting week. They had a game last week against the Toronto Raptors. Ended up pulling that on out. It was close. Scotty Barnes was yelling in Tatum's face and yelling in other people's faces. You could tell that the Celtics like really wanted to get that one, and that's exactly the quote that Jason Tatum had after the game is, "We wanted this one." And like his direct quote here is, "Last time they celebrated and shit when they beat us, but that's to be expected. We came here with a chip on our shoulders and found a way to win this game. We were also not playing with a bunch of players like Porzingis, Holiday, Cornette, and Horford. So it was nice to get the win, even against an opponent that I think we would all consider a little bit subpar. But clearly, I think just like with anything, when you're the champion, you're always going to get the best from the other team." I think that kind of brings us to the next game that we had where we lost to the Detroit Pistons. It was a classic trap game. We also were not playing with a full roster, and it just didn't end up going the way that we wanted to. The Pistons coming off a very hot streak that they were on.
Hot, hot, hot.
Well, they won 7 straight, so they're doing pretty well, and I think it's also great to see the Pistons becoming a good team. We kind of joke that for the last couple of years we've been going to the Pistons game because it was kind of like that token we're going to beat this team game,
Walk in
and
the pack.
one of those
Cheap
types
ticket.
of games. But credit to them, they're going to be a playoff team. They're moving in the right direction, and
Cunningham.
yeah, Cade
It's
Cunningham
pretty
is a real
nice.
deal, and they're a team that can be trifled with in the future. Are they a threat to us right now? No, but we'll see where the future takes us.
Can I say one thing on Detroit? Because
Yeah.
I think I said this last week, but their turnaround is unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
that is a team that won 31 games in between over the course of 3
years.
seasons. That
3
now has
seasons,
more
2 seasons.
wins this season than they had. So
I like their
huge
coach.
shout out to
I
Detroit.
like their coach too.
And that's a place where basketball is big. You think back to the Rasheed Wallace Billups days, like that place gets rocking. So Biggie, I know we got 2 more
Malice in
games.
the Palace, baby.
Malice in the
Palace.
Oh, they
Oh,
get
Palace.
rocking,
Palace.
baby.
Can't forget about that.
Oh, they
Jermaine
get
O'Neal with the
Almost
most
killed the guy.
vicious,
Almost killed the guy.
vicious right hook I've
Ron
ever seen in my
Artest.
life.
He said the
Documentary is
luckiest
great.
thing that
No.
ever happened is that he slipped because if
Yeah.
he connected,
Jermaine
that guy would have
O'Neal
died.
rocked the dude,
right.
rocked the guy. Anyways,
Moving on.
that's great.
Talk about a time capsule. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Ron-
I could talk about that
Ron
game forever.
Artest on the
That's
table.
that's a like, do you remember where you are type of moment, and I exactly remember exactly where I was.
that was
when
great.
happened. Next game, we had a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, J-Mats Cavaliers. The Jays, they did their part. They played well. 83 points combined between Tatum and Brown. And Jason Tatum, first player in the play-by-play era to put up 39 and 7.5 in any half. Still lost the game. Donovan Mitchell, Celtic killer. He also matched Tatum. Tatum put 46. Mitchell put up 41. I think it's just our bench didn't do shit in the game. There's something about this team where they just play like doo doo at home. I can't explain it. But I think an encouraging game that took place was a game that took place on Sunday. We're gonna call this the Al Horford game. Old man Al stepped on up, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and basically we played against the Denver Nuggets. Jokic did Jokic things like normal, but the team ended up winning it out after being a little bit tight in the fourth. Good win against a quality opponent out west. So 2-2 on the week. 2 games that we lost that at least one of those we should have won. Whether that you want to look at that and say we just kind of laid an egg in the Pistons game, or we should have pulled away from the Cleveland game where we were up in the third quarter with not much time left to go. So they kind of let that one slip. But again, still not worried about the Celtics. Still think that they're rolling. Now it's just about, can we keep everyone healthy as we head into the playoffs?
Yeah,
That final push.
I mean, open for comments here on the Celtics in the week that was.
Yeah, I think the Cleveland Cavalier game was definitely disappointing. I know we had people out, and we can use that as an excuse, but they took, what was it, a 28 to 25 to 3 lead in the first quarter. And it just seemed like Cleveland, would climb back. The Celtics would, build another sizable lead, and then Cleveland would climb back again until like the fourth quarter when they finally kind of took over, and that was that. I just don't see how you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going off for a combined 83 points and you're losing. Like, that blows my mind. I know obviously Donovan Mitchell had a game as well, so that kind of negates one of them, but it just was a disappointing loss. I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell, even after the game, didn't even really take credit for beating the Celtics because he knew that we had injuries on our squad, and I love Donovan Mitchell. He's right up there with Jason Tatum for me as like one of those humble superstars that gets like no respect.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that game, all 5 starters for Cleveland came out to play. They're all in double digits, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe Sam Hauser was starting and Al Horford was also starting, and they put up 6 and 5 points respectively. And um, I mean, Sam, you got to be better than that, especially if you're playing big time minutes. Um, that's really where I think they lost the game. There wasn't enough depth, and they got tired. I mean, let's face it, they've been playing for a while, and there's what they say about excuses. It is what it is. Um, Josh, like you were saying, they're probably not going to get the 1 seed, which is, at this point, it's fine. They're a great road team. It doesn't really matter to me. I've seen them play on the road. I've seen Tatum hit those big shots, so I'm not really concerned about that. It's like what everyone else is saying. It's like just get this team healthy, get this team to the postseason, and let them get into a best-of-7 series. You have Joe as a coach, and then all the assistants and the team itself, and going through the rigors already. I see them up to the challenge, and I don't see a lot of competition in the East. They played Cleveland what 4 times, and they were 3-1 against Cleveland.
2-2.
No, it's 2-2.
2-2, 2-2. Okay, so I mean, that series is going to go 7 games.
100%. It's going to go 7 games, and like you said, Sam, I think the silver lining is, especially to this year, which is completely different to last year, is that the Celtics are a crazy road team. They're actually arguably better on the road than they are at home. So the fact that they're even going to get the 2 seed and they're not going to get the 1 seed could be a little blessing in disguise.
The one thing that I do see happening, though,
think would have happened earlier in the season.
I do see if it does come to an ECF of the Celtics and Cavs, I do see the Celtics sneaking out game 1 and taking home court back. Now, can they use that to their advantage and finish it off? That's to be seen. You know what I mean? You got to go through and you got to play it. But we're still, you got to get there first. And
another
that
thing
actually needs to happen.
Another thing I want to make a point about the game on Friday too is, what you don't see in the playoffs is they got really deep into their bench, Cleveland I'm talking, and they had guys on their bench playing 29, 21, 18, 19 minutes, like multiple players. I think 6 guys I'm seeing. That's not going to happen in the playoffs. It's going to be the bench is shortened up. It's really like a 7, maybe
To 8.
8-man rotation at max. So you're going to get your starters
Are they
playing
going to fatigue?
40 minutes exactly. So these games that we're seeing right now in February and earlier in the season in November, they're different games completely than what we're going to see in June, probably, or
I agree.
maybe late May of when we're probably seeing the Cavs. So that's something you really got to think about. Is these are just completely different games.
No doubt. And I think that, we've touched on the disappointment that was Friday night, but you also have to give them credit for going up against Jokic and a great team from Denver yesterday. And although I think the fourth quarter is a product of, and giving up these leads is a product of the depth of the roster right now and being at the point of the season where you have Holiday and Porzingis who've been out for a little bit of time here. Like everything just gets moved up. I think the pressure gets moved up on some of the bench players
Got the
and
mallet finger.
not good.
You
So
also have the 6-man of the year on the bench. Like that's going to be one of your 3 bench rotation players.
Right.
You got to figure
Who's gotta
Cornet too
produce?
might play a little bit depending on matchups, but
Did
like
Cornette have 0 points that game against Cleveland?
Hauser. So like did he? I don't know, but like
I gotta look.
I'm
One
not
of the
I'm not
games
that
he
worried
didn't contribute at all.
no,
when the bench is shortened up. I'm not that worried, especially with Pritchard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cornette played 19 minutes and didn't lag a point.
yeah, so that's not ideal. But this team, should they be healthy going into the playoffs, even can probably get through a round or two, sustaining some injuries. But they're going to need a fully loaded roster in the Eastern Conference Finals, and should they make it to the finals, they're going to need everybody ready to roll.
You know who's definitely not making it to the Eastern Conference Finals? The Boston Bruins.
Oh,
no,
those
sir.
Bruins.
No, sir.
They're not making the playoffs at all.
You've transitioned us to a team. I wish I was looking around earlier for a white towel and just was going to wave it when we got to this segment. But Gabe, I'm there. I'm throwing it in. I don't know. I don't know where you stand, but recap the disappointment that is the Boston Bruins for us, please.
Yeah,
And thank you.
I will try my best. So last week, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Where was that? Was that in Toronto? I have no idea. They broke my back basically. That game
at home.
For a loss.
Of course,
even
it was at
worse.
home.
Yeah, that game. Oh my God, that game broke the camel's back because the Bruins had a 3-0 lead. They had a 3-1 lead going into the third period against a team that they typically dominate, and end up losing 5-4 in overtime. And it's just like that is the story of this season's team. Is they can't seal the deal. They can't seem to get it done. They lose by large margins. They go ahead in games and then give up the leads. It's just all a recipe for not making the playoffs. I mean, the Bruins lost again to New York Islanders 2-1. That posts them at a 5-game losing streak, which they did snap against the Pittsburgh Penguins this weekend. Where again, so now Marchand gets injured against the Pittsburgh game. So how long is Marchand going to be out now? And they already out McAvoy, already out Hampus Lindholm. I think it's time to just pack the bags up and kind of just let the season ride out, how it's going to ride out, and into the sunset they'll go onto their golfing trips, and we'll try again next year. I think I'm at that point right now.
Is there anyone in the pipeline for them to bring up?
No.
No.
The cupboard is very bare.
Their drafting's been awful the last 4
drafting
years.
has been terrible. I'm sure
they need Chaim.
Yeah, they need Broom.
But that leads that's what I was saying like them not making the playoffs, this could be a good thing because Charlie freaking Jacobs, though the Jacobs family, they love is just making the playoffs. They don't like winning. They don't like Stanley Cups. They like playoff games, home playoff games. So the fact that they're missing out this year, maybe we actually might see some changes from the top. And I truly think that will happen because once they get hit in the wallet, they're really gonna feel it and they're gonna make some changes.
And Josh, I could imagine they're not selling out home games either at this point.
No.
Like
the crazy thing is prices are still high. I who's paying money to see this team? Not me. I don't know who is, but it's baffles
I'm
me.
usually there multiple times a year, and it just doesn't interest me. Like I don't want to watch just this middling hockey team that
Tampa Bay Lightning Saturday, March 15th, $153 starting ticket. Like who's paying that money?
Is that in the 300s?
Yeah, even it's crazy.
Oof, no
Crazy.
way.
Like it's still a good matchup, but I mean, like at this point, the Bruins just
Yeah, but what's the
they're
product?
done.
You know what the product is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right. Tampa's most likely going to come out of there with a win. So like, why are you going to drop that?
But we've been saying this for a while. Like they have an
A month
opportunity
now.
right now where the team is not so bad that they can't retool and make a run next season. What they need to do though is figure out who is a part of their future and who isn't. And the ones who are not a part of their future, find someone who's interested in them and get something for them. Give some of the kids in Providence an opportunity to play. And you want to know what? I don't think that there's a lot of great players that are down there, but we do have Fabian Lysell. That's someone that they drafted and hasn't seen really any time in the league. Let's see what he can do. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Wait, what's
The
this
worst
kid's
that the
name?
worst the Fabian Lysell. The
All right,
worst
I'll
thing
have
that
to make sure
happens
to try and
is
get some of his sticks.
yeah, the worst thing that happens is that nothing pans out from Providence. They're in the exact same scenario that they're in right now, and maybe they've acquired some pieces along the way. At least going into the offseason, they can formulate a plan of attack to get back to relevancy. Because
But
right
who do
now,
you
this ain't it.
but who do you want to formulate that plan of attack? I don't think I
Oh,
want
I don't want
Sweeney
I don't want Sweeney or Cam
and
Neely.
Cam. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think
They got to change at the top, but I don't know. I don't know if they have the stones to actually do it.
I hope
Well, and
so.
we touched on how we feel about Sweeney in the draft, and it's like, well, you're going to be trading players like maybe Trent Frederick or even a Brad Marchand, who the hell knows? And you're most likely going to be getting draft picks back in return to build for the future. I don't trust Sweeney at all with drafting, and that's where my hesitancy comes in with like Sweeney and Neely is like I think they're good at analyzing like fourth line talent and like grinders and those types of players, but like when it comes to like actually getting players that are superstars and that develop into these great players, they completely whiff.
It's been a complete disappointment in terms of the overall season, just going back to the off season and how everything's transpired. Like the whole nonsense with the Swayman contract, you had the whole Montgomery situation unfold for the first 20 games, the up and down nature of it. But, with the trade deadline looming later this week, I think this team has to seriously consider what pieces they're going to sell off and do what you just said, Gabe, start to build for the future. A lot of
They
things
sh
this offseason to figure out, who's controlling the board, and is this team going to go into full rebuild mode, or are they going to do sort of what Big E was saying and try and take there's still immense talent on this roster, but can they build around that? Big E, do you have a final thought?
Yeah, just like last final thought on this too is like I think the problem with this team is like you said, it started off bad, but literally everyone on this team has underperformed all season long. And I think that's where I feel like there is still some ray of hope going into next season that if people just get back to what their normal career performance is, this team should be better just by that in itself. Obviously, we don't want just the existing team that's here right now to come back next year. There needs to be some significant changes. But why are we not talking about trading Corpusalo? There's probably some team that's going to the playoffs that would love an insurance goaltender. And you want to, if we're not going, let's try and get rid of him and get something for him. I think like that's the problem right now is I just don't think there's any. I just don't even believe that they think that this is a lost cause where everyone else does. And I'm afraid they're not going to sell off any pieces, and we're going to be stuck with the same team that we have right now at the end of the season. And that to me is the thing that scares me.
Well, we're certainly going to be able to figure that out when we reconvene next week and the trade deadline has passed and see if they've made any moves. Hopefully they have.
March 7th.
March 7th coming up on Friday of this week. So keep posted on the NHL trade deadline. We'll fully break that down next week.
Do your job, John. Don. Do your job.
Do your
Don
job.
John.
Don
Don
John.
John.
Sean John.
Don't mess it up more than you already have, honestly.
Yeah, don't
My
fuck it
God.
up.
And but now we're gonna take it from the Johns to the Fort, down in Fort Myers, where the Red Sox are in full spring training mode. Games are underway. The team is really getting into the swing of things. Kraz, what's the latest and greatest down on the Fort?
Yeah, well, when I was writing this, we were down 2 runs, so I figured we were gonna have gone 4-5 the first week of spring training, but Nick Sogard hit a 2-run home run to tie the game. So
So
we've
God.
gone we've gone 4-4, or sorry, yeah, 3-5. Anyways, so what do I want to say here? Alex Bregman debut. What does he do? Goes for three, hits one over the monster. It's a double. It's a single. That's exactly what we want to see. Garrett Crochet and Bueller both have their starts. Both have 4Ks. Um, really, I mean, looking at the stuff you see on Instagram and what they're doing in the clubhouse today with the golfer and the caddy and all that, it seems like Bregman and Story are bringing some sort of attitude into this team that I really like to see. It gives them kind of an edge. Cassis, as we know, is a fucking head case, so hopefully he doesn't.
Ludo.
They can just leave him in the corner and let him do his thing. They'll just yeah, give him a locker away from everyone else and let him fucking go meditate and
Sunbathe
listen to
on like right
incense.
field somewhere else.
Yeah, like let's get rid of this guy and sign Vlad Jr., please. I don't want to keep him long term.
Well,
Neither here nor there. But I did have one question. I was thinking about last week. We talked about the whole Devers at third situation, and what would be best for this team. And going back, I was really thinking about it. And Yoshida, at the end of the day, even though we're paying him as much as we're paying him, is going to be what's best for this team and putting someone else out in, say left field and having him bat. As far as overall lineup, maybe Yoshida's not the best guy, but if we're talking batting like we were before, then clearly Yoshida's the better player. So I was curious. I wanted to get everyone's thought. Would you guys rather have Devers at third base, or would you rather have Yoshida in left field?
Devers at third.
I think
Devers at
Devers
third?
at third, yeah, because you don't need the bat. You don't need Yoshi's bat. I think you can figure it out without him. Like I'd rather
Anthony,
Yeah.
I'd rather have someone who can control left field, the monster, because that could really change a game up if you get like, runners, second and third, first and second, and the
It's
ball comes off the wall.
It's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard to play left field, and right field for that matter. And I mean, it's hard to play anywhere in the outfield at Fenway. I mean,
Ask Manny
it's just
Ramirez.
weird. It's just weird, like parameters. So I mean, personally, thinking about it, it was like, clearly Yoshi wasn't part of Breslow's era. Neither was Story, but something does need to happen with them. You can't just let Yoshida sit there. He's a professional hitter. I mean, he's going to hit 285 to 300 for you every year, guaranteed. He's going to hit you 25 to 30 bombs. He's going to bring in 60 to 100 RBI. So he's a legitimate bat, and I just, thinking about it, I just think having him just sit on the bench and even platooning him is just kind of doing him a disservice. I mean, I think we can get either some picks for it or do something with it.
They
Personally,
gotta they gotta do something in terms of the roster, but that's why Alex Cora and all of them are there going to figure it out. Like I think it's a good problem to have a few
Mhm.
more puzzle
agreed.
pieces than you may have spots on the field as we were just talking about with the Celtics. Like throughout the course of the year, you're going to have injuries, you're going to have shit where you're going to need that full roster. So I mean, one thing we can touch on real quick is the Campbell, Anthony, Marcelo Mayer. Like they're
That
definitely
pushes out Yoshida too, them coming up.
Hmm.
Like you got to
yeah.
think about that.
But I
Hmm.
don't know if any of them
Or Anthony.
start on the big league roster on opening day, but undoubtedly these are going to be guys that you hear about the potential of getting called up throughout the season.
Yeah.
So it's great that
Isn't
they're getting.
there like an incentive for the team to not put them on the opening day
It's
roster
yeah, it's
that
an
like they
arbitration thing so they can have
yeah,
an
so
extra year of
like I
control
think it's
because they're cheap.
well, no, I get it, but like I think that's also
Let
another
the
thing
kids
that's
fucking
worth
play, man.
but I think
Marcelo Mayer
that's
is ripping the like.
all right, I guess so.
I think it was Matt McCarthy that said it. He was like, "Oh, let Christian Campbell go down to AAA and hit 482," and it's like, why do that to the kids? Why keep them down and the minors just because you have one more year of control over them? I mean,
It's the way it goes in baseball, my friend.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess.
uh, the Sox season will be here before we know it. The roster will be fully rounded out, and pretty soon we'll be drinking Sam Summer in the bleachers, and that will be a beautiful day when it's here. A beautiful day for the Patriots. Who knows when that's going to happen?
Mhm.
But J Matt, why don't you give us a few off-season notes that we'll run through quickly here on the Pats?
So not going to be a ray of sunshine, unfortunately, today about the
Oh, Paul
Pats.
Perillo here.
No, yeah, no, unfortunately.
Paulie Paul.
First big news of the day is Monday, March 3rd, and T. Higgins is officially off the board. He was franchise tagged by the Bengals as of around 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. So that was the big breaking news today. Um, so see ya T, which kind of sucks. Apparently they've been thinking about kicking the tires on a DK Metcalf trade. So I'm a little interested to hear your thoughts on that. But before we dig into that, last week, I think last Tuesday, I'm not sure what the date was, late in February, the Patriots, the NFL Players Association survey came out, and wow, the Patriots are just trending in the wrong direction, just completely year after year, just really, really bad. They rank 31st out of the 32 NFL teams as part of the 2025 report card. And that's about 1,700 players across the league that they survey. And just some real crappy ones, real shitty grades right off the bat. Team travel F. The Patriots, what do they call those? Air Force Pats or whatever. I don't even know what they call it, but
Aircraft One.
Aircraft One, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Aircraft One needs some damn Wi-Fi and some bigger
Lenny's
speed.
would be so disappointed in you right now, Josh. That's his team name for like the last decade in our fantasy football team.
Well, I'm sorry, Lenny, but I'm not sorry, Mr. Kraft, for shitting on those crazy old planes that need updating. It's sad, honestly. Like, you have all the money in the world and you make these players travel like crap. It's just, that to me is I don't know.
Hey,
You can't
let's build the
justify that.
lighthouse that looks
Yeah.
like a giant schmenza,
Yeah.
but let's not put Wi-Fi on the plane.
Eric, that's a great point. Like, you invest like millions in the Schmenza, but you can't invest millions in a plane. Like, I don't get that.
And I think the reason this all came out too is because when the Patriots travel across the pond, they get in different. They're not using the Patriots team plane. They're using like Delta, and they're like in first class and have their own pods with a bed, and they can stretch out. So like, of course they're gonna give the plane an F. Like, it has no amenities that for a
The
football
weight
team at
room
all.
with an F. That's not
The
good
weight
to
room,
see.
yeah, 32nd. But to their credit, they're opening up a $50 million facility that's going to open up in 2026. So that should improve. I think, on the contrary,
Everything pretty much.
I think that these were some interesting grades. I thought that the strength coach, which was Gerard Mayo's brother, actually, who ran the strength and conditioning, they got a B in that category. And then also for head coach, Gerard Mayo, who's now fired, they got a B plus. So two little nuggets to think about there, which I thought were
That's
very interesting.
mind-boggling that Gerard Mayo got a B plus because he was the biggest F coach that I've seen ever grace the sidelines for an NFL team.
Did they give them drug tests after these surveys?
Honestly,
I
I don't know what
probably.
players they were surveying on that.
I think it's just a instant of players protecting their own, maybe, or something like
That's
that.
what I was gonna say. Former player, and
He
I
went
played
out
with
in
him.
in a shitty way. Let's give him a B plus, make him a little happier today.
All right. Well, good for.
I'll give him a.
That's.
I mean, the
that's
one that
best-
stands out to me the most is team travel,
Ownership,
and then
too.
ownership gets
Yeah.
Bob Kraft gets a D from the players.
That's gonna go up his ass.
Well, we'll talk about that in yeahs and
I hope
yeah
so,
ohs
in a
because
good
there's
way.
a little bit of a situation that I think is contributed to that we'll touch on there. But with that being said, we have some great guests lined up for around draft time. We're going to have Karen Garigian back on the show to help us prep for the
man.
draft, and then we're going to have our good friend Jerry Thornton back on the show after the draft to recap the picks and preview the upcoming training camps. So some great upcoming guests on the Boston
We'll
Sports
have that
Buzz.
after morning sex glow after the draft.
Yeah, we will, baby. Don't you forget it. And another thing that we're glowing about is the upcoming March Madness. Now that the calendar is turned to March, a real quick college hoops minute, where Auburn and Duke are really seeming to break away from the pack as the top two teams in college basketball, having incredible seasons and going up against ranked opponents and taking care of business.
Let's not forget about the man who ruined the Celtics as well, and his team, Rick
Pitino.
Pitino.
St. John's.
St. John's rolling.
Unbelievable.
rolling.
What a turnaround.
That guy looks like the Penguin from Batman.
He ruined the Celtics.
He did. He did.
Unbiased.
Okay, toucher.
URI bas-
Thank you.
URI
Thank you.
URI basketball is ruined as well as they lose to UMass. Big E gets
Always
his
right.
revenge.
Guess you're not right
Let's
this time, huh?
go. Let's
Nail
go.
in the coffin.
Let's go, UMass. Let's go.
Connor Dubsky not getting the dub.
conference tournaments start. Well, really, the smaller
Suck it,
conferences.
URI.
All
Suck
right,
it.
Biggie, you got your biggest win of the year for you. Calm
There's
down
the
over
Super
there.
Bowl.
It's like the Toronto Raptors beating the Celtics over there. Victory lap.
We're taking
So,
notes.
Yeah, don't. Woo.
I know, right? We'll see you
Conference
again. We'll
tournaments
see you
really
again.
begin this week and head into next week. The smaller conferences taking place over this weekend, and then the major conferences next week. So really excited to have another guest that we're happy to announce. Dan Lifshatz of the Over Under Pod 98.5, the Sports Hub, a gambling expert and extraordinaire, comes on where we'll talk about this in a future episode in a few weeks, but the March Madness is near and dear to the Boston Sports Brothers, and we'll do a little time capsule on that in a few weeks. But excited, fellas! March is here, one of the best sports months of the year. Getting ready for the playoffs, and certainly March Madness is just one of the best things that happens on the sports calendar every year. So, with that being said, one of the best parts of the show every week is this.
It's time for my favorite segment of the show. And I can see Sam is turning down his headphones right now, which I don't know why you do that, Sam. You got to enjoy it. You got to embrace it. Embrace it.
Because these speakers are expensive.
Well, embrace it. It's
And I don't
my
want you
favorite.
breaking my speakers.
I'm not going to break your speakers. I might break your sneakers though. I might break your
these might
ankles.
break.
But it's time
Yeah,
for my
right.
favorite segment of the week. It's
I'd
time
like
for
to
the
see
things
that.
that we don't like, the things that, they're not great. They're yaos, we don't like them. And the things that are wonderful, stupendous,
That we
and
love.
the things that we love, those things, we put them in a little bucket called, oh yeah! Can someone give me a yao or an oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
That was really loud, and that was all the way down. Holy
Give
shit.
me a yao for that oh yeah?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Whoa,
You
whoa.
definitely
yeah,
would have broke
oh
my,
yeah.
You definitely would have broke my speakers.
We've got a good oh yeah to start, I think.
Hell yeah.
There's a really great
Free,
looking
baby.
documentary coming
starting
out
today.
on
Today.
HBO tonight. Celtic City takes a deep dive into the Celtics history, and I think followed the 2024 champions around quite a bit. So
Hell yeah.
really looking forward to popping that on later.
Absolutely, especially no game tonight. Who's got the next one? Oh, don't all talk at once.
I mean,
Well,
I guess this is an oh yeah.
I didn't put it in there. I just saw that. It
Which
was
I
mixed.
don't believe it. I don't think this will ever happen, but
I don't think it's
apparently,
that. I think it's actually yao.
apparently Gronk wants to make a return to the NFL, or that's the rumor.
No,
Cecil
he already
Lammey
denied
mixed.
it. He already
Cecil
denied it.
Lammey out of Denver Sports can eat a bag of rocks. This guy coming out saying that Gronk's going to come back because him and Sean Payton worked at Fox together. What a load of shit.
Related to Fox, I have an actually. Unfortunately, we do have someone who is retiring from the Fox Sports I believe it is the quarterback, Jimmy Johnson of the Dallas Cowboys.
That's yao.
So definitely like to his career, his 30+ year career after playing, of course, for Fox, analyzing. But yeah, definitely /yao for him. So
it won't be the same, like, turning on Fox for a football game and not seeing him there in the pregame.
Like who's next? Terry Bradshaw? Like,
that's why they did that AI thing like the last week or whatever.
Yeah, Terry
They did some like AI like thing about him as like a young person, and this is actually kind of cool. I don't know if any of you guys saw it.
Did not. We'll have to check that out. We got I mean, this is an oh yeah, I guess we can say it. Mike Moustakas signs a one-day deal to retire a Royal. Yeah. I mean, good for Mike Moustakas, but what does he have any relevance to us?
I don't know if that's an oh yeah, but not a yeah, oh, it's like a nothing.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think that I always like when people go back to their former teams and they send them 1 year deal to retire.
All right.
Actually, I don't even know who this guy is, but
he makes great Greek food.
Yeah, he was a big impact third baseman for the Royals when they won.
Does he make moussaka?
I don't know. Why don't you ask him?
Sounds like it.
I never thought Mike Moustakas would come up on the Boston Sports Brothers, but hey,
I saw it and I was like, I think that's kind of cool. He's signing a 1 day deal. I like that.
Hey, you go, Glenn Coco.
To the 1 year deal.
The 1 day deals? Any other oh yeahs you want to tell us about, Kraz?
Yes, I do. One that I didn't really realize until we were texting today. My high school friend of mine, Tyler, posted a picture of the 2006 Hendrick and Hawks team that one of my buddies, Gary Hunt, was on, whose cousin we all know as Rocco Baldelli. And at the time, Joey Maz was playing on the team, and I believe Mike Malone was also the coach. That year, Hoopus was wrestling, so he wasn't playing basketball that year. But I just thought it was interesting because Plotty was like, "Oh
Shout
yeah, I
out
know
Hoopus.
Tyler," and I was like, how the fuck do you know Tyler? Like he was that's what. So it's just Rhode Island, and then I realized he was a Newport kid, and
Tyler
And how about Joey
Bernardin.
Maz and Mike Malone, facing off against each other this week? That must have been surreal for them a little bit.
No
oh,
doubt.
100%. Yeah.
And no, shout out Tyler, a great Newport kid. I think he does some real estate. So if you need a house,
Does some real
check
estate
out
with the
check,
deadheaded, and he knows this deadhead kid I met
check
at
out Tyler. And that's your little roadie
Mansfield.
minute.
That was pretty wild.
The roadie minute.
The little roadie minute. Maybe Kraz. Look at this. I'm just spitballing ideas out of my fucking
Little
tuchus.
roadie minute. Yeah.
The little roadie minute. All right, now we're gonna hop on from the up 95 and over to the Pike for the Pike, baby.
Jesus
Where
Christ, this guy just fucking brake checked me.
the Pike had a major issue this week.
Oh,
where the
yeah.
entire westbound is
Oh,
Yeah,
90,
oh.
90 was fucked up too.
That's 90, you fucking moron.
Oh, I don't fucking know. I thought 128 was the other part.
What?
Near where like 36
The
is,
parking
and
lot.
35.
The pocket.
Oh man, the Pike is 90, and it goes from Boston all the way
Oh, I
out to
thought you meant
Oregon.
128. I thought you meant
128 and
Never mind.
95 are the same. I know.
It's also
All right.
known as the Oregon Trail.
Hey, would you like to buy these two wheels for your wagon for $1,700, or would you like to die of tuberculosis?
Well, no, it was dysentery back then.
Oh, correct.
Snake
Okay.
bite.
Yeah, well,
Scurvy.
the Pike can take you all the way to Oregon. That's the moral of that story. And the Celtics take the floor against the Blazers. Sixers in a primetime matchup Saturday night versus the Lakers. Really excited.
New look
about
Lakers with Luka.
the Luka Lakers in town. So that'll
It'll be a finals preview.
could
Crazy.
Could be.
appointment television for sure on Saturday night. The Bruins continue on, maybe trying to make a push, but likely not. Predators, Hurricanes, and Lightning on the slate this week, and the trade deadline Friday. So we'll recap everything that goes on with them. Watch them have a 3-win week and just completely change and get into
That would
like,
be
the
that would be
so
so
Bruins this
character,
year.
so in character for them.
Yeah.
So
And
don't-
also watch
Not
that
buying
Thursday.
into it.
Watch the Thursday game too, because if they start having healthy scratches, you might have an idea who they might be getting rid of.
Look at that.
Oh, Carolina,
Big
they're
brain
gonna get
Gabe.
waxed.
Big brain
by
Gabe
Carolina,
knows.
man.
Big brain Gabe. Add it to the Golden Boy Gabe. And lastly, the Golden Red Sox down there in Florida got a full slate of spring training games. Not going to rattle them off. It doesn't matter quite yet. in terms of-
Tuesday through Sunday, boys. Baseball
Tuesday
is
through
back.
Sunday. Maybe,
Every day.
maybe not. You can catch them on Nesson. Maybe not. You can catch them on WEEI. Who the
Who
fuck
knows?
Those two
You can definitely
channels.
get it on 103.7 and 93.7 if you're in Rhode Island. or
I'm
Mass.
sure you can get them on Nesson 360.
I'm going
'cause,
back
they,
to the radio.
They put everything on there.
Yeah, what a trash bag product that is. Anyways,
Awful.
this was not a trash bag episode. This was one of the best episodes. Uncle Lee coming in off the top with just some incredible history. Gabe, you touched on it. I think we really would love to have him back on, but like the sentimental aspects of it and what we talked about in terms of why we do the show, certainly all of our dads. And as we talked about, folks that have impacted our sports fandom, and one day we'll hopefully all have the pleasure to do that with others, in terms of things. So no, there's no news to share here on the Boston Sports Brothers podcast about any of that. And with that being said, gentlemen, any parting words as we wrap things up this evening?
Don Sweeney, sell.
Sell Don Sweeney for sure, and I appreciate you guys for letting taking a risk and letting Uncle Lee come on. I think it went fabulous. I'm excited to listen back and just listen to the shenanigans we all talked about.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about, man.
It'll be
I
a
love
good
it.
one. It's brought people from all different walks of our lives, I think, together in some way, shape, or form. I was with some family last night for dinner, and they were asking about the podcast, how things were going. They all tuned into the show with Sam and Ripe. Like, there's just some connections that we're here. So we'll continue to do it. And big shout out to Uncle Lee for jumping on tonight. So near, far, wherever you are, we always appreciate you tuning in. We will see you next time with Dan Lifshatz talking college hoops. Good night.
See you all next
Erev
week.
Tov. Erev
Later.
Tov.